Right, so the first video in this new PC building process will be the unboxing of the power supply. It is a Corsair CX series 600 watt. Now then, what we'll do is we'll have a look at the connections on it. Just before we do, I'll show you the range of Corsair power supplies, which is there. You can see this one's right at the bottom of the list. That's not really a concern, as I won't be really doing anything to do with cable management, etc. Because that basically does not bother me one bit in the slightest. Now then, let's see how we can get into this, because I haven't actually opened it before. Aha, that's it. So the side opens like that, and I take it the other side does as well. Just move some of this rubbish. Right, so that opens like that, and the front comes down. That's actually quite annoying. Aha, that's it. So, what have we got? As usual, you've got the warranty. Important safety information. What a load of bollocks. It might have 240 volt going in, but we're only having 12 volt coming out. Of course, we're having 3 and 5 and a couple of other things, but load of bollocks as far as I'm concerned. Don't need to read anything. Now that's quite handy, having the main supply that goes to the PSU, the power supply unit, included. Some products you buy don't actually have one of these in, but it's always nice to have one. That's a couple of pounds saving than having to buy one. Right, what else do we have? That's always handy as well, because a lot of people won't have these things lying around in their cable ties, nylon cable ties. Very handy. Use them to tie cables up, etc. That looks like 4 screws in there. They're probably to secure the PSU to the case. A couple of silica bags to keep the moisture levels down. Well, actually they absorb moisture. So right, I'm just going to quickly put the camera down. I'm going to actually switch it off for a moment. I'm going to take this out of the box and unwrap it. I actually need to get a tripod, so that's what I will do. I will buy a tripod. But anyway, we'll be back in a quick second with this PSU unboxed and unwrapped, and we'll see have a look at the cables. Right, before I look at the PSU itself, I thought I'd just quickly show you on the back what we have. This is all the connectors that come on the power supply, pretty standard, nothing special. So anyway, that cable there connects to the motherboard. That's an ATX cable. The next one is a 12 volt connector. You probably stick that. Normally one of them will go to your graphics card. Now that's an 8 pin. Next to it we have another one, which is a 6 pin. But you see that little pin to the right? That's so you can make another 8 pin. So you've got one 8 pin there, one 8 pin there, another 8 pin there, which is also a 6. Now we have our SATA power supply in almost 6 pin SATAs. As you can see, how many of them do you get? You get 6. There's a total of 6 of them here. There's your standard connection for your hard drives, your floppy drives, etc, etc. Well, we're not going to be using floppy drives, and I don't think anybody does. So that's for your hard drives, I should have said. Hard drives, your CD drives, your burners, etc, etc. Look at the list here. That tells you again what each of them pins are doing. So for example there, you'll see that's here. So I'll just get a close-up of them. So if you want to have a look, you can compare what you're actually getting on this cx600 watt power supply. Now then, watts, as we say, is 600. Now that's important, because each one of them connectors is going to supply you with amps. Now they need to be pumping out as many amps as possible if you're going to be using high-end graphics cards. So if we take a look down to this little chart here, you see you're going to be putting 240 volt in below. That's what's coming out of the wall. That's your house main supply there. That is what the PSU is going to take. Right, so what you plug this into on your wall is your input. So your house electrics is putting that out, or between that range I should say, somewhere in between that range. Especially, well, this is for, I don't know if this is just for the UK only, but anyway, you just need to ignore that basically. It's nothing important. This is what's important. I'll chart there, I'll just leave it there so you can have a look. Now then, on them 12 volt outputs, remember I was telling you about the 6 and the 8 pins up there, B and C, yes, B and C. Now out of them pins, out of B and C, we are going to get 46 amps, which is a hell of a lot of power. Well, it's not a great deal, but it's a fair amount. Now if you look at some of the cheaper power supplies, you will see that you are not actually going to get a great deal of amps out of them. You might only get 20 odd amps out of your 12 volt supply, out of the 12 volt connectors. As I say, they will be going to the graphics card, B and C. Now if we have a look at something else that gives you 12 volt, for example the SATA connections, which are D, and we come down here, you see it puts out lesser amps. And that's for a simple reason, because hard drives, etc. do not need 46 amps worth of power. As you can see, if you work from there, and that, and that, I know that this power supply is suitable for my requirements. So anyway, on the graphics card I'm going to use, we have enough power there, and there's plenty of power left over for hard drives, etc. It's also sending out 25 amps maximum on the motherboard connectors. This is all to do with a fan, noise and decibels. So it basically spins the fan on the power supply, as you can see, basically spins at a lower speed and spins up when needed. Right, let's have a look at the actual PSU itself. Right, let's have a look at the actual PSU itself. Matte black. More of the boring stuff. Once again, the outputs, what the amps are putting out, etc. On and off switch, power connector, all again boring stuff. It's a power supply. At the end of the day, it's nothing special. The most important thing about a power supply is to make sure it simply outputs the amount of power that you're going to need. I don't know how you can see the fan. This has a little clear plastic sleeve over the top of there, just to protect it. I will take that off when we build the computer. As you can see, the cables on the other side all come in nice sleeving. Obviously the cables are the same as what I've already showed you on the box. There's no point of going through all of these again because it's a power supply. There's nothing special. It's got all the connectors we're going to need. And if you want to actually see what the amount of connectors that's on this, then just have a look at the beginning of the video where I focused on the box, and that's where you'll get all the information from. There's no point doing anything else about this or talking about it anymore. It's boring. Well, it won't be boring if you're building a PC for the first time, I suppose. But as I say, a power supply unit is a power supply unit at the end of the day. What's important is the wattage and or the amperage each thing puts out. So stay away from the very cheap and nasty power supplies, unless of course you're building a very basic PC using onboard graphics, etc. Then you don't need to spend a lot of money on a power supply, because you don't need all that of available power, because your computer is never going to want a lot of power if you are building a basic budget machine. But I'm going to be building quite, I would say, a medium spec PC. Going to have a very good graphics card in it, which we'll go into detail when it arrives and as we go on. But yes, that's the power supply. That's the heart of your PC. That is the power supply. And without one of these, your PC would not switch on. So you definitely have to buy one of these. Well, you've definitely got to buy a hard drive as well. You've got to definitely buy a processor, motherboard. But there it is. That is the Corsair cx600, and that will be powering my brand new PC. So I hope to see you soon when you join me when we start building the next PC. So I'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.